Hello, hello, and welcome. Welcome to this Conversations with a Coach. I am Valorie Burton. I am founder of the Coaching and Positive Psychology Institute, or the CaPP Institute, as we love to call it. So I want to first of all welcome you. We have a really wonderful guest I'm excited about talking to today, Stephanie Weichert. But I would love to know who you are. So if you don't mind sharing in the chat, I'd love to know where you are. I am south of Atlanta. It's a little dreary outside, but we have nothing to complain about compared to our neighbors in Florida that we're praying for right now. But where are you? I'd love to know. You can just type it in the chat. Tampa, yes. I've been reaching out to my friends in Tampa. I sure hope that everything's going to be okay for you there. Bahamas, Idaho, Illinois, lovely. Stephanie, who's joining me, is in Tennessee, just north of us. Southern California, nice. Kimberly in Virginia, Suzanne in Maryland, Ellicott City. I used to live right next to Ellicott City in Annapolis. Awesome. So good to have all of you. All right, we're going to dive right in, and others will be joining us, but we're going to dive right into our content. So I would love to know, you joined this call. What are you hoping to get? Like, what caused you to say, hey, I want to check out what they're going to be talking about in Conversations with a Coach? So feel free to share anything that you were thinking as you decided to take your precious time to join us for this call. We are wanting to make sure that it is very much worth it. All right, so I have a simple question. And this is a positive psychology-based question. You may or may not know the Coaching and Positive Psychology Institute. Obviously, we're rooted in positive psychology, but we really believe that coaching deserves a research-based foundation because coaching really works. But often coaching is, it's sometimes questioned because it's a fairly new profession. And so positive psychology is the study of human flourishing. What is it that causes us to be at our highest levels of well-being? What is it that causes us to be happier, to perform at our best levels? And it's an absolutely wonderful underpinning for the profession of coaching. And there are some simple things we know about human behavior and how some of this stuff works. And one of them is that when we experience positive emotion, it actually changes our brain chemistry. So when you experience positive emotion, you actually see more options when you're dealing with a challenge. You actually set higher goals. You're more likely to persist towards those goals. You actually make better decisions. And so I want to just ask you right now, if you think back on these first few days, we're right in the middle of the week. What's your win or your grin? Is there something you've accomplished so far this week, even if it's small, that feels really good? Maybe you checked off your whole to-do list. Maybe you actually got a workout done. Maybe you spent some quality time with somebody and it really mattered. That's a win, something you can check off the list. Or a grin. A grin is something that just made you smile. It could be a moment with somebody you cared about. But what's your win or your grin? I want you, if you have the ability and you're not driving, to just share what's your win or grin. Shakira, so good to hear that. You met me at the IMC. Yes, I was down in Orlando 2 weeks ago. You're retiring from the Air Force. You've been considering getting a second master's degree in in positive psychology. Often. Awesome. After being at Maxwell Leadership, you found CaPP. Might be a better option right now as you build your business. So I will say this, because we teach classes in positive psychology and teach you how to apply that to coaching. If you're wanting to coach, this is a very practical way to get some of that positive psychology knowledge. So I did go back to grad school to study positive psychology. I've been coaching for some time, but also there were no positive psychology-based coach training programs. And in fact, when I applied to grad school way back in 06 or 07, That was a part of what I said about why I wanted to study positive psychology, to really bring it to coaches and to aspiring coaches. So thanks for that comment, Shakira. I'm glad we got to meet at IMC. Oh, Cecilia, I got through the first week of college with my single parents who are attending college and on welfare. Wow, you're probably dealing with a lot of people who can appreciate what you're bringing to the table. I'm wondering if you're the one in Southern California. I spoke for the California Association of Community Colleges maybe a year or two ago that was working specifically with that demographic and getting them in college. What a wonderful group that was. Your win, spend a weekend in nature by yourself. Oh my goodness. That sounds wonderful. Love it, Jackie. Oh, Cecilia, so you were at that event. I thought you might be, and I told y'all there, I am a product of the California Community College system. I went to Monterey Peninsula College before I transferred to Florida State. All right. So let's dive in. I want to introduce you to someone that I know you're going to really enjoy getting to hear from and talk to. We founded the CaPP Institute over 13 years ago. 2010 was when we did our first coach training intensive. That is our 3-day foundational coach training event. It is the prerequisite for our certified personal and executive coach program. Since that very beginning, we have always aligned how we teach coaching with the International Coaching Federation core coaching competencies. We've always submitted our programs to the ICF, really to get a level of accountability. You know, when you're in the marketplace considering coaching, it can be confusing. There are so many programs, there are so many options. And it's very simple because coaching is not a regulated field. It's very easy for someone to just say, hey, I've got a coach training program. Now, there are a lot more sophisticated consumers today. But I point that out because we have been very intentional about submitting ourselves to a higher body within coaching. An independent body might be a better way to say it, to review what we're doing. And to say, yeah, this aligns with a set of core competencies that we know works, that tens of thousands of coaches around the world are committed to, because we believe in the profession of coaching. This is not just a hobby. This is not just a title to slap on to, you know, when you're a consultant and you're like, oh, I want to call myself a coach. Coaching works. Coaching is transformative. Coaching is powerful. And it is a professional discipline, just like any other professional discipline. And so from the very beginning, we have always incorporated into our way of operating, letting the ICF know, here's what we're doing. Do you approve of this? And so we are now approved as a level 1 accredited coach training program. For years, we have been accredited for coach-specific training hours and for continuing coaching education hours. Just all those are different designations within the ICF. And so I just point that out because that commitment has been there since the beginning. I've been credentialed with the ICF since 2005. And there are many ways to be a coach. I don't think you necessarily have to have one particular credential, but I do think you want to be committed to being trained, to really learning the profession of coaching and practicing it well. All right, so Stephanie Weichert is one of our early graduates from the Coach Training Intensive who has continued not only her training, but the profession of coaching. She is not only an MBA, but a PCC, meaning she is a professional certified coach credentialed by the ICF, and she is a certified personal and executive coach through the CaPP Institute. We are so proud. She's performed life coaching workshops for the Tennessee Army National Guard, their Warrior Fit Camp program, the Kentucky Army National Guard Operation Immerse course, the Tennessee Army National Guard's Children Attitude Motivation Program, which stands for CAMP, not CAP. They automatically say CAP, right? Can Fit Pro and Empower Fitness conferences in Taiwan and in China. She's got a bachelor's degree from San Francisco State and an MBA from King University. She's written for magazines, for publications, and she's just an amazing person. I think you'll kind of get that sense as I'm talking to Stephanie. I originally got to meet Stephanie because years ago, around 2009, 2010, right around the time that CaPP was about to launch, I was a master resilience trainer for working on behalf of Penn, the University of Pennsylvania, where I went to grad school, for the U.S. Army in their resilience training program. And her amazing husband, Ken, and I were working alongside each other. And then as Stephanie was looking at coaching in 2012, she came to the CaPP Institute. She has stuck with this over time. I think that's really important to note. Many of our graduates come out of coaching and immediately begin applying it to an existing business or within an organization where they are leading. And then we have coaches who apply it in the context of doing several things within their business: speaking, coaching, consulting, training. I say all of that because we have graduates from so many different backgrounds, and we like to share their experiences with you. Because my experience is just one. Our faculty, who are all amazing and all at least experienced as I am, because I really believe in having successful coaches within our coach training program. But I think really getting to have conversations with people who are out there doing it is powerful. So Stephanie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So where are you exactly?
Brentwood, Tennessee. That's right outside of Nashville.
And you got to say it like that. Brentwood, Tennessee.
Tennessee.
I love it. You wrote a book a couple of years ago, Everything I Would Have Said. Many of our graduates also have that desire to write. You've done so much of what many people who want to coach do. What's helped you stick with it now for more than a decade?
What a great question. What has helped me stick with it? I think hope. I had a vision for what I wanted. I had the motivation, and we all think that I'll feel like doing it, but it's not really the feeling that drives you. It's just that it's doing the next, not to quote Frozen or anything like that, but it's just doing the next right thing that you know to do over and over, making that daily decision to keep going.
Yeah, it is a daily decision. And over time, those decisions just keep adding up. I can't remember what I was seeing. I think it was this morning on social media or something. And someone was talking about the difference of trying to lift 1,000 pounds versus lifting 1 pound 1,000 times, right? And I think when you have a goal for doing something different, it really is about being consistent. If you're consistently building the little things, it makes such a tremendous difference. Do you see it as that? What do you think you've been most consistent about that's had the biggest impact on your coaching and personal development career?
So that's a great question. There's a couple of things, right? Like some are personal and some are professional, but personally, it's that resilience factor of coming back to, can I restore myself back to joy? Because if you can do that, you can really, you can go a long ways. You might have a bad day one day, but can you get up and keep going? Then professionally, I keep trying to perfect the crafts that I've put my hands to. So it's writing, and my husband's really the speaker. I wish he was here today to do all the speaking, but
the ball of energy.
What's that?
I said he's a ball of energy.
He is really great. But you do what you can do, right? So if mine is writing, then it's working on that craft of writing every single day. It's coaching, then it's continuing education toward coaching. And I know that's why a lot of people are here today.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I started off talking about the importance of positive emotion. And you talked about, getting back to joy. We know, for example, that positive emotion expands our ability to deal with adversity and with stress. it actually helps us to persevere. So, I ask everyone on this Zoom, to put in the chat, what's your win or your grin? But when you think about what you've been able to do as a personal coach, and even with your training and your workshops and your, writing a book and all of that, what are you most proud of in relation to your work as a coach?
So it's not on any of my notes that I took in advance because I'm a writer, right? But the thing that I am most proud of, the thing I'm most excited about is my husband has this program called Tennessee Grit. And there's this one person so of all the people, it's the pilot cohort that we got to work with, there's this one person. He was the non-smiley one in the group, right? He was, I thought, oh no, where is he going to go with this?
Yeah.
Turns out this one was living in his car. We didn't know it. I had that little inkling of reaching out to him to continue doing coaching. He is now not in his car. He is in a home, in his own his own apartment. This is all through coaching, I haven't told him what to do. I simply helped him bring out the best in him. I'm so excited to tell you that now he has registered for school. He has found where he wants to go. He wants to be a social worker. I'm so incredibly proud of him. If you ask me what I'm most excited about, it isn't anything I've done. It's what I've watched other people do. And I know that each person has the same insight.
Oh, I love that. And I love that you gave an example of coaching in a situation where someone's really in need, like they can't necessarily give it back to you. But coaching works. I think everyone can use a coach. I believe so strongly in it, not simply because I've watched it change people's lives, but because coaching has changed my life. In those most difficult challenges and pivotal moments, it was coaching that helped me get clarity and direction and overcome my fears and bad habits and the distractions. I love that, Stephanie. What you're most proud of is what others have been able to do because of the coaching. So, what initially drew you to coaching?
So Ken and I used to write for a magazine. Long story how we got there, but it was a delight, a joy to do it. We wrote for that magazine for 7 years, and that magazine, writing the column for that magazine opened up opportunities for speaking, mostly for Ken, but he would ask me to come and speak with him. And I thought, I need some credentials behind my name to do this. And so I wasn't sure what do I need to put there. And at first I just had a bachelor's degree. I was, I certified in personal training. That's really where I started. So I could run my husband's program when he went to war. Literally, that is how I started. And
You had a fitness business, and Ken's done a ton in the arena of physical fitness within the Army. But you were needing to run the business. You were thinking, I like this field, but what is my profession to be able to do this? I think that's what you're saying when you're saying I need credentials.
So I needed something besides fitness.
Mm-hmm.
And I apologize if I was giving you the long version.
No, not at all.
Okay. But it's how to get from here to here. So it's not just fitness, but how to help people make and sustain change.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can relate to that because I got clarity about my calling around inspiring others to live more fulfilling lives through writing and speaking. And, my background was in journalism. So the writing came naturally, and speaking was like breathing to me. So that wasn't a big deal. But I thought writer speaker is not a profession for inspiring. And, I'm not a counselor. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a minister. I'm not a social worker or any number of other things that, might give that credential, so to speak. But I'm passionate about personal growth. And like you, coaching for me gave me the profession behind what I was doing. It actually made me a better writer and speaker. What did it do for you once you realized, hey, coaching might be it? And then you had that initial draw and then you learned it. How did that shift things for you?
Can I answer that? I wanted to go back to your first thought of, I'm not a counselor. I'm not this, I'm not that. A lot of times what I feel like what we do opens up the door for deeper healing. And so people might be a little afraid of going toward that, jumping straight into the deep end, and coaching can really get you there. And so can you help me point me back in the direction of where we needed to finish?
Yes. So once you decided to start coaching, you learned what coaching was, you got your first training. How did that shift what you were doing? At that time, you were kind of leading in the area of fitness, but how did that shift what you were doing and maybe even the confidence level that you had?
Yeah. Okay. So, at first it was speaking with Ken. That's my husband's name. And then it moved toward, boy, I love this. What else can I do? So it was doing facilitation. And then I started to do one-on-one coaching, especially to build up my hours toward ACC credentialing. And so it really became that one-on-one that I started to enjoy a lot.
Mm-hmm. So what did you look for when you were looking for a coach training program? What were you looking for to make that decision?
So I was looking for really a reputable company, affordability. And again, my husband recommended the program. So that it was sort of a no-brainer when Ken said, this is who you need to reach out to. She was one of my instructors. And so it's that combination, right, of being reputable, your company's very reputable, affordable. It's you personally, it's your integrity. It's also the program contents. So of learning positive psychology.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate that feedback. I did not ask her to say any of these things, by the way, but I appreciate it. So, in terms of your effectiveness and your confidence as a coach, how did coach training impact that?
So I think you set one, like, I feel like you have a goal in mind. You have a big vision, and then you're like not sure how to get there. But
Yeah.
coach training was that little start to get to the next step. So it really I took your courses before I signed up for your certification. I think maybe I did both together. And what I found is just in doing that next thing, my confidence really grew, and I was able to do the next thing after that.
Yeah, it's really one step at a time.
Mm.
So, how has coaching contributed to the other services that you offer in your business, or has it?
Yes, it truly has. I mean, from when I signed up, I think it was in 2012 or 2013. In this last year, I wrote and delivered a 12 module coaching session to the Tennessee Army National Guard, and worked with a cohort pilot of soldiers. I got to do 19 hours of facilitation. So I never knew what was in store for me when I first started.
Yeah, yeah. And it seems like the opportunities just keep opening up, which is incredible. Stephanie has been shadowing our mentor coaches because she, at this point, is one of our alum and qualified as a mentor coach. So we're kind of excited about that. We've got an incredible faculty, and in fact, unless they are new, they've all been with us 10 years or more. And so we're always excited when we're bringing in new ones. But we look to our own alum because we have so many now that have been at it for quite some time. And Stephanie's one of those. What would you say to someone who maybe is unsure about investing in coach training, but they know they want to be an effective coach that earns their worth, that earns, good money when they're coaching?
I think that's a great question. I feel like it comes down to, we really want to know the end for the beginning. We want to know how we're going to bring it all together. But I found in my own life, it doesn't work like that. So it's taking that, taking that next step. And then different things opened up for me. I started using coaching in meetings when things got really tough. I started using coaching with my teenager, my son, when I thought I should teach him. And so I found really hidden benefits that that contributed to the overall value. Not only did the doors open for facilitation, for groups, for one-on-ones and different things, but there are some intangible benefits. And I know that when you start, you want to have like everything worked out, but you don't really.
So I love what you said about, I've used coaching in meetings when, maybe you're at an impasse. Tell me a little more about that, because a lot of times leaders don't have coaching skills. You've gotten into a position of leadership in part because you know the answers, because people come to you to tell them what to do or tell them the direction. But coaching is a really powerful leadership skill. And you mentioned being in a meeting. Like, what's an example of how you might apply coaching skills in a practical way like that?
So let's say, I'm sure everybody here has been around a moment where somebody's triggered, they're angry. If you've been in business long enough, it happens. And when you can see just a bigger picture and you step back into your coach role and you don't get triggered along with them, you can ask a question like, say more. Let me hear you. What's the reason for you wanting that change? For example, what makes that motivating for you? And you can really just drop that overall level of anxiety in the room and bring peace to a situation.
Yeah, I agree. There's something about coaching that requires us to be neutral and requires us to be non-judgmental and to replace judgment when it pops up, because it pops up for all of us. You said something and you're like, but when you catch yourself, to be able to replace that judgment with curiosity, this pure curiosity that really just wants to solve the challenge or move through it in some way. And so I love the way you're saying that. You're in the meeting and what you're trying to do is bring it here and then let's move forward. And coaching does that, even if people don't realize that's what the leader is doing right there inside of a meeting. But what you said about applying it, I've applied it many times to parenting. Within any number of contexts, coaching really has a place. I just saw a comment that said something like past 14 or 15 parenting is really coaching. Carrie, that's so very true. Love it. All right, let me see if looks like there's a question here. Can you review finding a niche for coaching and being well-versed in the area to support an individual? I'm interested in helping people with overcoming challenges in their career journey. I have a background in HR talent acquisition, but not all things HR, which can be important in supporting a career journey. Do you think I can begin in a coach training program now or after I obtain a full scope of all things HR? Note, I'm certified in HR, but I have not been able to receive opportunities in all things HR. So you probably might know what our answer would be to this, Demetria. So coaching is something you can jump into at any point. And there's really not a prerequisite, certainly not a prerequisite of going through a lot more training in HR. We've had quite a few people go through our training programs who are from HR. It's a natural fit for an HR department to have a strong coaching approach to what they're doing. As you're often dealing with people, you're dealing with goals, you're dealing with behavior, performance, all of those things. And so what I think is that you will find it to be, as Stephanie just mentioned here, a way that you add value. Because at any moment you put on that coaching hat and you're approaching any problem or challenge as a coaching opportunity. That's a phrase within coaching, right? Even in the middle of a coaching session, when it feels like the client doesn't know the answer and you don't know the answer is it's a coaching opportunity. So let's coach around that. Stephanie, it looked like you were going to say something.
Well, one time I don't know if you've ever heard of Patsy Claremont. She was
That sounds familiar.
she's a woman of faith, or she was a woman of faith.
Yes, I remember her. Yeah, she has some books.
She has a lot of books. She has a bookshelf of books like just like you do. So I got to meet her in person, and it was profound. One thing she told me is, your first book, she said, is therapy, your second is legacy, your third is ministry. I feel like we get into coaching to make a difference. We start with us first. We want to have it like we said, all worked out, but it's really, you just get in and strap on your seatbelt and go, right? Like, you don't have it worked out. And then what started as your own personal therapy becomes your legacy. And I truly hope people here will take that next step and let what started with them first become their legacy.
Yeah, don't overanalyze it. I overanalyze it, I think, a lot. And some of you may relate to that. I mean, I discovered the concept of coaching. I think it was 2000. I had written my first book. I had met my literary agent. I actually was meeting with him for the first time, and he had a client who was a life coach. And he was so excited. I remember when I met with him, because it was the Friday before Memorial Day, and his client was going to be on Oprah on Memorial Day. And he said she was a life coach. And I was like, that's interesting. That sounds made up. I started looking into what it was. I was immediately intrigued, but I was also skeptical. And so rather than just getting my answers, I kept hesitating. Then I felt like, yeah, this is what I really want to do, but I don't know. Let me look at this program and that program. And well, let me wait, maybe in 6 months. And this went on for a couple of years. And the one thing I will say, because I was in PR and marketing at the time, is if I could do one thing over, I would have done the training immediately. I did my training after I sold my business and was making a go of the writing and speaking. And when I started coaching, it was like, it gave stability to my business. It was a revenue faucet. I could turn it on and off. When I was writing a book, I would stop coaching for a few months so that I could write. And then I would tell people I'm coaching again. And so it would have been wonderful to have had that in my toolbox when I decided to take this big leap of faith as preparation. I know we have a lot of people, for example, who are begin coach training because they know they're going to retire soon. Maybe it's next year, maybe it's 5 years down the road, but they don't want to stop working, and they have so much to give back because there's so much experience. One of the wonderful things about coaching is if you're not doing it within an organization, but you're doing it as a business, it's very flexible. Very flexible. I've lived in 3 different states coaching, and nobody knew. Nobody even had to know I moved. The number stayed the same, and it's like, because it didn't matter. When I was speaking and coaching, I would still coach when I was on the road, because I would just coach from my hotel room. I've known people that have broken a leg. They're still coaching. It's very flexible. And so if you think too hard about it, you'll talk yourself out of it. But if you give yourself permission to go for that thing that's kind of nudging you, you'll figure out exactly how it's supposed to unfold in the process of being trained and starting to do it. Let's see, I think I got a couple more questions here in the chat. How long is the coach training intensive and how much does it cost? That's Rosette. And Rosette, I know who Rosette is because she's in my membership, and you're in South Africa, I believe. So our next coach training intensive is September 9th through the 11th. It's 3 days. So the first 2 days are all intensive coach training and positive psychology based training. The third day is our business development day. that is entirely focused on, some of you asked about, developing your niche and all of that. It's about that. It is about you creating a personal development plan of action, a business development plan of action, and you actually walk away with that plan from the third day. So it's 3 days. The training is between 10 a.m. Eastern and 6 p.m. Eastern. So I know if you're in South Africa, for example, Rosette, that's going to be like 5 or 6 in the evening. You won't be the first. We've had people do the training. It's live online like this. It's very engaging. We've had people join us from Australia, Dubai, Qatar, South Africa, Ghana, I believe, Italy. I think we had Japan. Yes, thank you. Alexis is in the other room. Switzerland recently, and almost always Canada and multiple places in the Caribbean. So, we try to get a time that, although it's pretty late for those who are way ahead, that's hopefully not 3 a.m., and then those on the West Coast of the United States, you're starting at 7. So hopefully that's not too bad, right? So it's just during those 8 hours. And like I said, we teach you a coaching framework. It's called Acera. It's our proprietary coaching model. It's a structure that you use that carries you through every coaching session and helps you get results. Stephanie, Acera. How did that help you as a coach? You learned, that was the first thing you learned because we teach it in CTI, to be able to have a framework to be able to coach.
The greatest thing about the Acera model is it simplifies something that can feel really complicated. So it gives you that great entry point into coaching. You don't have to just go, okay, did I hit all 27 markers, PCC markers, or I think it might be 27, maybe a
lot of them.
And you go, can I really do that in 30 minutes to 60 minutes? Yes. Start with the Acera model.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. It's interesting to me. We've had coaches, a lot of coaches go through our program that have been through other coach training programs, or they've been coaching for a while. We've had coaches that have coached as long as 10 years, get done with the first day of CTI and say, I've learned more today, more that's practical for my coaching than I've learned in the last 10 years. And that blows me away. We have a very practical approach to coaching because we want you to be able to do it well and to jump in immediately, at least knowing foundationally, here's how I do it. And I really modeled that after how I learned coaching, and the fact that after 2.5 days, I actually started coaching almost immediately. And then I kept my overthinking. So it was a while before I went into certification. But what I really was looking at when we created the program 13, 14 years ago was, what are the things I wish I had had when I went through a coach training program? And the first was that very practical from the very beginning. Here's how to do it. Here's how to know where you are in a coaching session. Here's how to know exactly what you ought to be doing. But also, like I said, what's the research say about how to help people transform their lives and how to transform my own life? And then thirdly, I don't think it's fair to teach people how to coach and not teach them how to get clients. So the business development is woven throughout our coach training. So I'm going to open up if there are any other questions. Alexis, did I miss any in the chat? Or if you want to take yourself off of mute and just ask a question, you can.
I'm going through, I was answering some people. Let me see. There was a question from the Maxwell.
Oh, I didn't tell Rosette the cost. Did you put that in the chat?
I'll
the
go
coach
back
training
and add
intensive is $1,495. I got that right. Alexa, $1,495. Okay.
Yeah. There's a question that just came in. Okay. From JR, does the coaching intensive go in more detail from your coaching courses in the Maxwell platform?
Yeah, great question. Okay, so I am, for the last 2 years, a little over 2 years now, I had the great honor of being asked by John Maxwell, just guru in the leadership development space to serve as the coaching mentor for his Maxwell Leadership Certified team. And so within that, I serve as the mentor for thousands. At this point, I think there are like 48,000 Maxwell Leadership Certified team members, people who train, speak, consult, and coach, an amazing group of people from probably 120 or so countries. So twice a year, I go to that conference, I teach, and then I created their online coach training. So that's an on-demand coach training. That's about 15 hours online. So when I created that, I was asked to create it in a way that if you went through that, coming to CaPP would be like stepping into the next level for your coach training. So it's not a repeat of what you've learned in Maxwell. It actually is a really great complement to what you've learned, and it's taking you to that next level for your coaching. One of the major differences is our coaching is all live coach training, and you're going to be in cohorts in the coach training intensive. So you start coaching live that day. So we use the breakout sessions. You're going to be in groups of 3. You're going to be coached. You're going to coach. You're going to be observed. And so it's a very different experience that I think you'll very much enjoy, JR, but really great question, because I know it's an obvious question. People ask me a lot, I thought you were doing this for Maxwell. I love what I do for Maxwell. But we wanted to make sure that they weren't in conflict with each other. And they're not. So what you'll find is that it's just continuing your education as a coach. Additionally, our program has been reviewed by the ICF. So these are hours that the ICF has approved. If you decide at some point you want to get an ICF coaching credential, you would be able to use your training in CaPP to be able to do that, because you need a certain number of coach training hours. Did I miss anything in that answer, Alexis?
Yep. There was another. Give me one second. I'm answering some and making sure we're not missing any others. So,
oh, I see. Kathy asked, is there a way to start the 6-month certification immediately after CTI in September?
That's what I did. That's what I did.
You did. Yeah. So I love the spirit of that question, because what she's saying is, I don't want to wait until January. Okay. But CPAC, which is our Certified Personal and Executive Coach Program, begins in January and July. So we start those cohorts twice a year. So if you go through September, you would be starting in January. There isn't a group that's starting like in October. It would be starting in January. So if you could hold your horses, and join us. Also, once you become a CaPP alumni, we do what we call a master coaching roundtable. So we would love for you to be able to join us for those. You can still stay plugged in. We have a really great and active Facebook group for all CaPP alum. So even though you'll be graduating in September and starting in January, there's some things you could be doing in between as you get ready to prepare. Additionally, once you go through CTI, if you start coaching after that, and we give you a coaching log, you can actually start logging those coaching hours, which you can apply to your certification. You can start applying hours for your CaPP Institute certification as well as your ICF certification after your first coach training. In our case, it's the coach training intensive, but after your first official coach training. Yes, Carrie, if you are already registered for CTI, we can't wait to see you. You can enroll now for CPAC and reserve your spot for CPAC in that way. Alexis, was there anything else in the chat that I might have missed?
I believe that is it. I'm skimming back up one more time.
All right. And if you have a question you want to ask verbally, you can feel free to take yourself off of mute to do that. Demetria asks, does your program provide all the credentials to meet the ICF qualifications? So there are multiple elements to getting your ICF credential, and you're applying directly through the ICF. So first thing I always say, because we're not the ICF, is always go to the ICF website and read through the current list of requirements in the event that they change something that, hasn't been communicated or we haven't heard yet, et cetera. We are not the authority on what their requirements are, but they are right there on the ICF website. So I'm going to give you kind of a general rundown. The requirements are going to be around your coach training hours, your client coaching hours, the number of hours you've actually coached, your mentor coaching hours. So we provide we don't provide client hours, but part of what your certification process will entail is you coaching clients along the way. Now, we allow you to coach clients pro bono. The ICF will allow a percentage to be pro bono and the others to be paid, which also includes barter. So there are some creative ways as you're building up your business to still get credit for paid hours. And you want to look at what the requirements are for that. They're going to require an oral coaching recording. So they're going to evaluate your coaching. They're going to require some recommendations from some of your clients, as well as a core competency exam. It's called the Coaching Knowledge Assessment. So we align what we do with what the ICF does, but it's not exactly the same. There are going to be some additional requirements that you have once you are going through your ICF credentialing. And in our mentor coaching experience, we help prepare you for that. So what we're trying to do is give you everything you need to be able to move into that ICF credentialing process and to feel confident with it. The mentor coaching piece is really important. It's a piece we added almost 3 years ago. And mentor coaching is about coaching specifically on your coaching skills, not building your business or anything like that, but listening for how you're coaching and how you're using those core competencies in your coaching. So we do everything we can to basically create a roadmap for you. If you follow it, you're going to see quite a bit of success. There are a lot of steps. It's not hard. It takes steps, and that just takes your commitment. And if this is something you think you want to do, the Coach Training Intensive is the place to start because it's not a major commitment. When I say a major commitment, it's 3 days. So if you get to the end of the 3 days and you're like, these are some great skills, I'm going to use them in my current role, I'm going to use them in my personal relationships, but I'm not sure if I'm going to keep going with coaching as a profession, I guarantee you're not going to regret having been through the Coach Training Intensive. The feedback we get most is, I wasn't expecting I was going to have aha moments and breakthroughs, right? That often happens at the Coach Training Intensive. So what we're doing is trying to keep you from having to reinvent the wheel. And that includes the wheel that's required if you decide you want an ICF credential. Stephanie, did you have something you wanted to add to that? I saw you smiling.
No, I think you covered it. Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. We do the Coach Training Intensive 4 times a year, and then twice a year we start the cohorts for CPAC. Jessica, do you coach the men and women in the military service? Have you coached military members, Stephanie?
I got to recently coach 19 of them. Yes.
And I have coached service members as well. It just so happened to be that they were service members. In fact, if you will go to my podcast, the Successful Women Think Differently podcast in July, I had the wonderful opportunity of coaching a recently retired colonel who's graduated from the CaPP Institute program and is really wanting to focus on her mission. I think you'd find it really good. It's actually a coaching session that I did with Tia that we incorporated into the podcast. And we also have a discount for members of the military. So reach out to Alexis about that. We love the military. I'm a military brat, by the way. My dad's retired Air Force. My mother retired from the Army Air Force Exchange Service, which is just called Exchange now. But I was born on a military base. So it's very comfortable for me. All right. After the intensive, JR is asking, how much is the cost for the 6-month CPAC program? Alexis, I don't want to
I'll have
misquote.
that in the chat right now. So I was just
good. Great.
responding
She's
to
putting
him.
that info in the chat. Jessica, love it. Sounds exhilarating. Honestly, it is. As crazy as that sounds, I find coaching to be so fulfilling. There are very few professions where you get feedback immediately of people's appreciation. You're seeing them have breakthroughs. You're joining them on their journey as they're pursuing things that are so important to them. I used to get teased because so many of my clients either quit their jobs or moved overseas. Did something really like major. And I was like, I'm not making people quit their jobs and move to Italy. What's happening is they already know what they want to do. And through the process and the power of coaching, they are giving themselves permission to make leaps of faith. And I'm supporting them in doing that. And so it's, I think, really a privilege and an honor to get to serve people in that way. All right. Yes, JR, thank you. So the CPEC program in total is $49.95. That includes the mentor coaching. That's a shift in our program, which now includes mentor coaching because we changed from being an accredited coach training program. Excuse me. That's not what I'm trying to say. We changed from getting offering accredited coach specific training hours to becoming an accredited coach training program. And so in doing that, the program has to encompass mentor coaching as opposed to it being optional. That is what the ICF requires. So there has been a change in our pricing, but that reflects mentor coaching. Stephanie, what was the name of the program? You got it. Masters, Life Masters. You're on mute.
Oh, sorry. Life Masters was what the font is a little funny, but my husband's program is H2F program. So it's a holistic health and fitness program for the Guard. I think this will soon be coming Joint Forces, but my program within his greater program, which he called Tennessee Grit. And now I think everybody's wrapped under the umbrella of H2F next. Mine is called Life Masters.
That's currently just awesome. Currently. These things change. I love it. I love it. And now Jessica's asking the name of the podcast. It is the Successful Women Think Differently podcast. We just launched it in May, and it's one of the top business podcasts on Apple Podcasts and one of the top career podcasts. So I'm pretty excited that it launched so well. But it comes out every week. So the most recent edition is today, just came out today. Thank you, Shakira. Great, Jessica. I hope you enjoy listening to it. And you can go back and find that episode. It was somewhere in mid-July with Tia that I mentioned, who's the retired colonel. Well, this has been wonderful. Stephanie, thank you so much for taking the time to join me and just share your experience. We're so proud of you as one of our CAP Institute graduates and proud of your journey as a coach. Attaining your professional certified coach designation, and then the work that you're doing and the spirit with which you do it. I will remember your answer for a long time when I asked you, what are you most proud of? Being proud of what others do as a result of coaching and being a catalyst for that kind of change is powerful, but even more so when that's what you're super proud of because you see the change and the impact that you're able to make.
Service. It's all about service. Thank you so much.
Yes. When we are mentor coaching, we remind coaches over and over again, come to your session with a spirit of service. That informs your questions, that changes the whole mood and mode of how you approach coaching and how clients actually respond to you. We would love to be able to serve you. We would love to be able to partner with you if you're thinking about coaching. Or if you already know coaching is for you. So we have an upcoming coach training intensive September 9th through the 11th. And you can register for that now. Registration ends at the beginning of next week, I think on Tuesday. So you want to be able to register right away if you're planning to do it, because it is that Saturday through Monday. If those dates don't work for you, we will have another coach training intensive the first weekend of December. Again, Saturday to Monday. I think it's the 2nd through the 4th. And you've probably noticed a couple of our graduates here And I welcome your comments in the chat as well, because it's always great to hear from people who've already been there and done that. So thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, morning, or evening, depending on where you are. And we hope to see you at an upcoming coach training intensive. If you've got more questions, Alexis Murray or Kristen Terlitsky, who who run our program, will be able to answer those questions. And Alexis has been here all along. I think you probably put your email in the chat, Murray, Murray at capinstitute.com, but she'll also get a follow-up email with those details. And of course, you can register for the program at capinstitute.com. If you want to take yourself off mute and say goodbye, we would love to hear your voices. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye, Valorie.
Bye,
Thanks.
thank you.
Valerie.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you.